that vote?
I will mention it.
You will mention it.
I will mention it, yes.
Since I have my calendar. Good afternoon, everyone, on September 11th. Calling our full board of directors meeting to order. And just wanted to, before we go forward, wanted just to say that you can either do it individually at home, but I know Supervisor Halbert and I attended a fire station and mayor as well too, with regards to September 11th, and just wanted to make sure that it's been 23 years. 22 years. And we just want to make sure that every single individual that was affected and is still even affected today are not forgotten. So with that, we will go ahead and call our meeting to order, and please take roll.
Sure. Vice Chair Brandon.
Here.
Dr. Brown.
Here.
Dr. Hubbard.
Present.
Director Josie. Here. Director Kick.
Here.
And Director Testa.
Here.
And Chair Hernandez.
Madam Chair, this time Director Kick is participating remotely. We're going to use the emergency exception under 82449. It'll allow her to have her two just cause ones stay active in case she has childcare issues in the future. And what we would do is entertain a motion to allow her to participate under the provisions of that.
So moved.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Need a roll call.
Please call.
Yes. Vice Chair Brandon.
Aye.
Director Brown.
Here. Aye.
Director Hubbard.
Aye.
Director Josie.
Aye.
Director Kick.
Yes, thank you.
Director Testa.
Aye.
And Chair Hernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go ahead and go to item number 3, which is our meeting.
Chair, would it be okay, especially on 9/11, that we salute the flag today?
Absolutely, before we go forward. Okay, I will let you do the honors.
Okay, please rise, place your right hand on your heart. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So going on to item number 3, which is our meeting to open to the public. Members of the audience may address the board directors on any matter within the general subject matter jurisdiction of the LAVTA board of directors. Do we have any public comment?
So I didn't receive anything via email today, and there's one attendee in the public. Would you like to speak? Please raise your hand. No, but we did receive public comment in person.
Okay.
Which you have.
All right, then I will go ahead and ask Kelly and Ruth to please go to the podium. And you have 2 minutes to speak.
The Valley Link Rail project will be tying in with this bus system, and members here in this room are people related to the Tri-Valley San Joaquin Regional Rail Authority and Alameda County Transportation Commission, and a lot of people have been participating in these hydrogen luncheons where the Stapler companies, the Swiss railroad companies, have been pushing this idea of hydrogen trains. Well, it seems in Germany, they don't really just go for whatever the Swiss are telling them. They ran their own 1-year rail demonstration project in the north. And this hydrogen rail transportation line died a quick death. They killed it, and they decided not to do hydrogen because of the, hydrogen may work fine on buses, but on trains, it's a whole different story, and you have a whole different set of technical requirements. And what the Germans decided to do is they're going to do hybrid electric based on testing 1 year and through the winter, the German winter. This is, the state of Lower Hanover, Lower Saxony near Hanover. And I think that you will never hear this from Stapler. And you'll not hear this from Alstom. You will. This was announced in Germany by press releases, and I would recommend that everybody here go and not just rely on the hydrogen boosters on Stapler, but take a look at what the Germans are doing. Thanks.
Thank you. And just to clarify, we've only had one luncheon and there is conversation and we look forward for you to attend our next meeting. Any other public comments? Okay, not seeing any public comments, we'll go ahead and go to item number 4, which is our July Tri-Valley Accessory Advisory Committee.
We have our new Tri-Valley Accessible Advisory Committee Board Chair, Zach Silva, joining us today to give you your report.
Good afternoon, board directors, staff, members of the audience. My name is Zach. I'm the chair this year. I'm also the recreation supervisor over at Pleasanton Senior Center. So I work closely with our senior transportation program, Pleasanton Rides, along with our RAD program, which is recreation for adults with developmental disabilities. Our TAC committee meeting in July, excuse me, just a quick overview. We did our TAC bylaws and membership update for our first meeting of the fiscal year. We had an election of chair and vice chair, so as myself as chair, and then Donna Singer, who's representative from Dublin, is the vice chair. We had a presentation by Rashida Kamara from County Connection on the pilot of the one seat ride pilot program. We have a member capital representative on the committee. We gave an update on some of their elections updates there as well. And then we received some service updates and concerns from some of our committee members and riders with some back and forth with staff and contractors as well.
Any questions for Zach? Any comments?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your report. We appreciate you coming out. Our item 5 is our consent agenda, recommended for approval of all items. Is there any members of the board that would like to call an item? Not seen any.
Hi, Madam Chair, I have a couple of questions on the budget items, the treasury report items, I'm sorry. Budget.
Okay, go ahead.
On the treasurer's report for the period ending June 30th, I'm looking at packet page 18. Can staff just comment on how we are so over budget on communications and under budget on advertising?
I'm sorry, under budget on.
So over budget on communications and under budget on advertising?
Communications is, sorry, the word is just totally escaping me. Stamps, FedEx. So to be honest, I don't know what extra we mailed this year. We're under budget on advertising because the marketing department did not do all the things that they budgeted for this last year. That was Tony. I can't tell you if we did extra FedEx mailings. Or we did, I don't remember off the top. Jennifer, we know Jennifer actually handles all the postage at the front desk. I don't remember if we did a large mailing. I know we're going to be doing a large mailing, but I don't believe in fiscal year 23 that we did.
Okay, so we budgeted for 7,000, we spent 102,000?
No, hold on. Sorry, my page numbers are not the same as yours.
Okay, it's the,
It's June, you said.
Yes, June. Yeah, the operating expenditures for the period ending June 30th, 2023 has us showing that we budgeted 7,000 for, for,
Something is in the wrong line item.
yeah, that's why.
We did not spend nearly that much.
Right, and it says that we budgeted 140 for advertising and we spent $28,000 for advertising. So my suspicion is that that's where the mix-up is. I just wanted to see if we had comments on that.
My guess is actually that where the mistake probably is, because it would be in one of the line items closer to that. It's probably fuel and lubricants.
Okay,
Because it's a matter of the account numbers, not the account names. So, but I can go back and I can email you and let you know exactly what it was.
okay, that would be great.
And these are not for June, this is not our final numbers. Those will be coming to you in the form of the ACT for the annual comprehensive financial report.
Right, okay, thank you. And then I had another quick question on the same report, but for the July report, on the insurance line item. Is that an annual?
Yes.
That's just a one-time deal,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Okay.
that I can tell you, the insurance, it happens every year. It looks like if you annualize it, right, you're ridiculously over budget. We can pay it monthly, but then there's an additional fee for paying it monthly.
Perfect.
We prefer to pay it upfront since we have the funds.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Chair. That was all my only questions. Page are you on? I was on packet page, that one was packet page 36.
Oh, you have numbering based on PDFs, okay.
Yeah, on the PDF packet page 36.
So we should number our, I think that would be helpful.
So we're all on the same page, literally.
Exactly, literally.
One correct.
Did you have a question?
No, just a comment, but on item A on the consent calendar, the date is incorrect on our agenda, but I believe it's correct in the actual minutes. And so we got date for July 10th.
And then you'll email the board tomorrow with regards to.
Yes, I will send you an updated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other items? Not seeing any. May I please get a motion for the consent?
Move approval.
Second, Jody.
For the first and the second, please call.
Vice Chair Browning?
Aye.
Director Brown?
I with the corrections that were mentioned earlier.
Director Hubbard?
Aye.
Director Josie?
Aye.
Director Kick?
Aye. Also, by the way, for some reason, I'm locked out of my computer. So to hear you, I need to have the phone up to my ear. So that's why my camera's off. I apologize.
Director Testa?
Aye.
Chair Hernandez?
Aye.
Motion passes.
So we were going to item number 6, which is our amendment to LAVTA's bylaws, Article 3.
Thank you, Chair Hernandez. Good afternoon, board members. Staff are requesting the board approve the proposed amendment to the LAVTA bylaws, specifically Article 3, Section 3.03A, compensation. At the May 2023 Finance and Administration Committee, the committee requested staff present a draft amendment to the LAVTA bylaws in order to consider an increase in the board member compensation, given that your compensation amount has not been adjusted in approximately 15 years.
Oh, 15, that was 12. 15 years, okay.
Roughly, yep. Staff presented the first reading of the proposed bylaws to the committee at their June meeting and subsequently to the board at the July meeting. The staff report from your July presentation is included in your packet. Amending the bylaws requires 2 readings of the changes. The Finance and Admin Committee received their second reading at their August meeting, and during that meeting approved a recommendation to forward this to the board for your second reading and consideration of an action item. And we are now returning to the board with your second reading of the proposed amended bylaws. And there is a slight fiscal impact with this change, approximately $8,400. This assumes each of the 7 board members participate in 24 meetings a year. With that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Not seeing any questions.
Move approval.
I just want to ask if there's any public comment.
I did not receive any.
No public comment. All right. We have a motion for the approval of the compensation increase. Correct. Seconds. And second. Please take roll.
Vice Chair Browning?
So, okay, go ahead.
Sorry, do we have further discussion before?
Oh, sure.
Did you want to say more?
You can go ahead if you have.
Oh, no, I just said, sorry.
Sorry.
Just wanted to make sure. Aye.
Director Brown?
Aye.
Director Hubbard?
Aye.
Director Josie?
Aye.
Director Kick?
Aye.
Director Testa?
Aye.
And Chair Hernandez?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Item number 7, our Alameda County Portal Student Pass. And I think, do we have anyone from ACTC?
We do. Thank you. We are joined by Carolyn Clevenger. She is the Deputy Executive Director of Planning and Policy at Alameda CTC. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for being with us today. She's here to answer any questions that I'm not able to answer. But we are here today to give you an update and overview of the Alameda County Student Pass Pilot, which is in, I think, year 6 or 7. When I was here as Director of Planning, it was just launched. So I was familiar with the project as it got going, and things have changed since then. Could you pull up the slides, please? This is an information. Excellent. As I stated, I'm here to give you an update, an overview of the Alameda County Student Transit Pass and how it has changed since the program started in 2016. Next slide, please. So there's more detail in your packet. I will just give you the highlights here during the presentation, and we can dive into any questions or details you'd like to dig into. So the Alameda County Student Transit Pass, or STPP, was envisioned as a part of the Measure B, the Transportation Expenditure Plan in 2014. The goal of the PASS program was fourfold: to reduce barriers to transportation access to schools, to improve transportation options for students in Alameda County, to build support for transit throughout the county, and to learn from the pilot so that we can implement a cost-effective program. Measure BB allocated $15 million for 3 years of the pilot. The initial pilot was designed to test various types of pass models at schools, and schools were selected for the pilot based on transit need, or based on need and transit availability. Next slide, please. So in 2016, there was an initial rollout at 9 schools that's in Alameda County that tested 4 different pass models. Livermore High and East Avenue Middle were the only 2 schools in the Tri-Valley that were identified for the first year of the pilot. And at Livermore High and East Middle, there were 2 passes that were tested. There was a means-based transit pass that was available to low-income kids at no cost, and any other student wanting a pass was offered a discounted transit pass. In 2017, after a very robust evaluation, and I have to give very strong kudos to the ACTC team for all of their wonderful work here. The evaluations are complete and online and very, very detailed. So after the first year's evaluation, the commission made some changes and refined the program to 2 different types of pass models. Basically, a universal pass that is free for all and just a means-based pass. And in 2017, 2 additional schools in the Tri-Valley were selected to participate. Christensen Middle and Del Valle High were added to the program. And the program was changed to just offer free and universal passes to all the students at the 4 participating high schools, or 4 participating schools. So no longer were we offering, or was ACTC offering, a discounted pass program. It became expanded to free and universal for all students. In 2018, which was the 3rd year of the pilot, there were additional schools that were in Alameda County where the program was expanded to. However, no changes were made to the Tri-Valley. And at the end of the 3rd year of the pilot, 21 schools were enrolled, which is over doubling the number of schools that were initially enrolled in 2016. Next slide, please. So after the first 3 years, there was another robust evaluation, and the commission approved expanded criteria for additional schools to participate in the program. Criteria included financial need of the students and transit service that was available. And at this stage, Pleasanton Unified joined the program, and the remaining 5 schools in the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District also joined the program. In 2020, there was approval to extend the program to Dublin Unified. Due to the pandemic, it was delayed 1 year to 2021. Next slide, please. So currently, all 3 Tri-Valley schools, direct school districts participate. Means-based passes are available at Pleasanton and Dublin Unified School District. The universal pass is still available in Livermore. It's available to all students. And I want to speak to how that decision was made. When the commission, after the pilot period was ending, and when the commission was looking at how to expand this to other schools, they made a decision that if 75% of students at a school were eligible for the free and reduced lunch or free and reduced meal programs, that school then would become eligible for the universal pass. If there was a school that had less than 75% enrollment in the free and reduced meal program, then it was only available as a means-based program. And the caveat is Livermore does not hit that metric for the 75%, free and reduced. However, staff commission or the Alameda CTC staff noted that it is the lowest income school district in the Tri-Valley, and they wanted to maintain that universal pass. So that is the caveat, that Livermore continues to receive the free and universal pass for all students, and Pleasanton and Dublin are enrolled as a means-based pass. There are additional schools that have been approved in Alameda County. Full expansion identifies 175 schools. And Carolyn can jump in at the end here and correct me, but I think as of 2021, there were 62 or so schools. So really a big jump from when the program first started. There is more evaluation to come. Alameda CTC staff will be conducting a robust analysis after all approved schools are enrolled, and additional modifications may be considered at that time. And I think that is the last slide that I have. So we can maybe stop the screen share, and I am happy to open it up to questions. But perhaps before I do that, Carolyn, I want to give you an opportunity to say a few words and correct anything that I got wrong.
Great, thank you, Christine. Thank you for the opportunity to talk with you about the program. It's a program that is really near and dear to the commission. It was something that was started through Measure VB, and we've had just a lot of great feedback from the schools and families who are using the program. As of this school year, which we're still in the midst of launching, given it's still back to school time, we'll be in 153 schools in the county. So it's a very robust program, and LAVTA has been a really great partner working with us on this program in terms of just working with the students, working with the school districts, and we've had a lot of great transit use out in the Tri-Valley. So I'm happy to take any questions or follow up with Christy as needed on any issues that come up.
Hi, Carolyn, it's Melissa. I do have a question. I just want to clarify really quick, just because when I first got on to ACTC, I asked why Dublin wasn't on there, and I was told that Dublin had not applied for that at that 1 year, but then they did apply the following year, and that's why it took a little bit longer for them to get on board.
I'm not sure specifically what that references to. During COVID, we did pause some expansion because of everything the school districts and the transit agencies were dealing with. And as Christy walked through, we did a very, I would say, conservative rollout of the program when we first started, and worked. The first school in the Tri-Valley was Livermore. I actually wasn't at the commission at the point when we first launched the program, so I don't know actually how the decision was made of which school district launched first. But then we did work with LAVTA and the school districts to bring them on a rolling basis. We try to gauge how many students are part of the school district and might be the influx of students each year as we look at how many people we can realistically bring onto the program, and just monitor that way. But I don't know the specific conversations between the Dublin schools and the program that long ago.
Okay, no, that's just what I had asked. It was one of my first few meetings, and that's what I was told. And so just clarify what test when you get a chance, but I believe that Dublin did not apply because, or they just didn't apply. They had missed, I think they had missed the deadline or something. So, okay, any questions? Go ahead.
Okay, so I read in here and found it interesting because as I was reading this, I was thinking that's pretty labor intensive to do the means-based qualification, but the process is left to the schools to do. It's not.
That is correct. So pre-pandemic, and Carolyn, jump in if I'm misspeaking, using the free and reduced meal program enrollment information was an easy way to identify which students were eligible. Post-COVID, all students get free and reduced meals.
Right.
So we are leaving it up to the schools to determine eligibility. Once the schools sign off on those applications, then they get transmitted to us, and we do all of the back end with Clipper. It is labor intensive all around. I'm looking forward to thinking about how we can streamline this moving forward.
Okay. So I do find it curious that the universal pass remains available to Livermore regardless of income, because that's vast. I mean, we know in Livermore, are very high-end communities, and so there's absolutely no restriction or exclusion at all.
Currently, no, you have to go and apply for it, but yes, there is no income-based qualifier for Livermore.
What are you applying for if there's no income-based?
You have to apply for the pass, and
You
it's
just have to say, I want this.
Right, and then we have to, if you lose your pass, there's a replacement process, so there is a form that they have to fill out.
So how is that justified that one community has all universal pass?
I'm not sure Carolyn might be able to speak to that one.
I can jump in. I mean, the history that Christine mentioned is how it went in front of our board was that we did look across the county. We have 4 different districts that are the free and universal program. As she noted, it's typically, or in all of the other cases, the schools well exceed the 75% free and reduced lunch population figures. But for the Tri-Valley, we also wanted to acknowledge that, you know, different parts of the county have different demographics and different income ranges. And so Livermore was the lowest income of the 3 Tri-Valley districts. And so we were, you know, trying to encourage access to the student transit passes to the greatest degree possible. As Christine noted, next year will be our final expansion year of the program. And then at that point, we will be looking at the program in its totality, see, you know, where we might need to be revisiting various policies, look at some of the longer term financial sustainability of the program, and, you know, expect we'll be having more policy conversations with our commission at that point. But at this point, as we were continuing expanding the program, the decision was to not make major changes along the way to those schools where we had already rolled out the program.
Just for the record, I'm uncomfortable with that. So how has the pilot program impacted increased ridership or decreased when it's been changed or removed?
I don't have the stats in front of me, but I do know that we see, I think on average, I know Livermore students use the pass 8 times a month, Pleasanton students use the pass 11 times a month. So we definitely see good ridership, but I don't have the data right in front of me. And Carolyn,
I can add if you want, Christy. We definitely in the last 2 years of data has been a little bit, you know, unusual given COVID and the amount of schools that were not in session, and also the amount of transit agencies that were not having people tag their Clipper cards when they got on. So we are, I think, this year going to be in a little bit more of a steady state, if you will, in terms of ridership to be able to evaluate that. What we do know is that I think it's about 8% of LAVTA's ridership this last year was from the Student Transit Pass program. So I think it is definitely, you know, a nice way to get people exposed to transit when they are students, and, you know, increase access for opportunities for kids both to go to school as well as things like internships and jobs and such. But when we looked at the ridership data over the 2 years prior, just given the impacts of COVID, it was really challenging to do much good data analysis. So we're hoping this next year, we're in the middle actually right now of collecting data from the last school year and evaluating that, and that should give us a better sense of kind of where the program is right now in terms of ridership impacts.
Okay, thank you. The last question. This may not be related. Las Positas College, is Las Positas College in any way included, or how, because they have a universal pass policy?
They do, yes. And students pay, I don't have.
They pay during registration.
Correct, yeah, full time.
So whether you ride the bus or not.
It's their student ID. It's built into the student ID.
Yes, and the students pay for that. They voted to impose a fee or a fine on themselves several years ago to fund a transit pass for all the students, regardless of whether they ride or not. Absolutely.
Okay.
Can you sell to them?
Yes, a bulk pass, yeah.
So that was my question then, is it a discounted pass or rate that is built into their student ID?
The idea, I think, is to find that price point where, that if students are all paying $9 per semester and that equals a certain dollar amount, that leaves us whole, if you will, for fare box revenue. So I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm happy to bring that back to talk about what the average fare is for the Las Positas program. I can bring that back to you.
Okay. I worked at Las Positas for decades, and it was enormously supportive and helpful to the students, so.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think it's
So that all the students pay for it, whether they ride it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, this was enacted after you left, so it was with Tony, and I know I was a big driver, and the board was a big driver to pick up riders there. There was a parking problem at Las Positas, and it was one way. So if you collect bulk and money, but only 10% ride it, the money's worth as a whole.
While I was there, the student ID did have the pass.
Oh, good, because this is just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Carolyn, if I could, we allocated as a ACTC board commissioner, you have 15 million for a 3-year pilot program to measure BB. When was the beginning of the BB program, and has that money been spent?
The BB program launched in 2016, and some of that funding has been spent, but not all of it. We work with the transit agencies on, they've also used some of their STA funds in the past to help pay for some of the rides, and we continue to work with them. So we're, I don't know off the top of my head exactly how much the 15 million has been spent, but we do still have funding from BB for the program. And this fall, we'll be starting more of that long-term financial analysis for the program. The intent with the program was always that we would be able to secure external grant funds to help fund the program. And we have unfortunately not been successful in that. As you know, there's just a whole lot of need for funding for both schools and for transit agencies right now. And so it's been challenging to find external grant funds, but that was always the intent of the program.
Okay, thank you. With the free lunch program, just walk me through this. A student moves to a community, let's say Pleasanton, and they qualify for a free lunch. Are in Pleasanton and Dublin, are those still the criteria for ridership with the free universal pass? Excuse me, with the free bus rider pass?
Yeah, and Christy might be able to add a little more on this, but since COVID happened and the free and reduced lunch program sort of criteria stopped existing, we do just work with the school districts, and they basically send to the transit agencies the list of students who are eligible. That is another thing as we look at the long-term structure of the program. None of us expected that the schools would stop tracking the FRPM program in the same way. And so that's something that we're going to be grappling with. I would say thus far, the school districts have not raised a lot of concern of needing to do this about this screening for us. But I do think that it's going to be a conversation over the next year because of how the state stopped tracking that in the way that they historically had. And that doesn't just affect this program. That's a metric that's used on a number of programs that we need to revisit.
Right, yes, because I can't imagine the free lunch program will continue indefinitely. So you rely on the school district to provide the information for financial viability, and they are still doing the research. You feel comfortable they're still doing the research?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't, and actually I would ask LAVTA if they've seen any, we're onboarding a bunch of students as we speak right now for this school year. So I think as we see how many numbers come in, that's when we might get a sense if there was any challenge with that evaluation screening. But given how early we are in the school year at this point, we haven't had red flags, but again, we're in the midst of the onboarding.
And if I could add, it is something we are wondering about. How are the schools verifying? It might just be an honor system. And so that's on our list to delve into.
Okay, all right, good. And just this last concept is that I just want to make sure that the word is out so that the students that deserve the free bus pass and don't have it through the entire school system know about it and can apply to it, because it can truly make a difference for obviously for working families who don't have the ability to shuttle long distances, where this bus program is such a good one. And it can be expensive riding the bus if you don't have that pass and you qualify or income qualified. Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Director Albert.
Carolyn, clarifying question. I think I heard that there are 175 total schools that could eventually, possibly, high-end, take advantage of the program. And we have 150 something signed up this year. So of the 150 that are signed up, how many are designated as the whole school gets the universal pass, and how many are designated as your school, only the students that are income qualified get it, means 10 base test? What's the split?
I can give you the split from last year because I have that breakdown. It was about a third of the schools that were in the free and universal program.
Okay. And
I don't have it by number of students. That's something I don't have. But we do have, of the 17 school districts or special districts we're in, 4 of them are in the free and universal program.
The whole school district? Or no, yeah, the whole school district.
Correct.
Yeah, so I guess it's just odd that the whole district, when we know that even within a district, some schools are more needy than others. But that's the ACTC program. We don't have anything to do with that here. And so it seems to me, and I'm just thinking out loud here, one, every school, the students that need it have the ability to sign up for it. To Commissioner Brown's point, let's get the word out that they can. With regard to ACTC's benevolence to the Livermore School District, I use the word benevolence because they don't have to, it doesn't qualify for it, but they gave it to Livermore to show, you know, that they didn't completely walk away from the Tri-Valley. I guess you don't look a gift horse in the mouth is a saying. I don't know exactly what that even means, but so do you? Okay, well, we'll talk about that later again. Carolyn, thank you. And so I guess we have a choice. Thank you. We don't really have a choice to turn it back, but we're not looking at making any other local decisions.
No, this is an information item. It's come up at a few board meetings, wanted to just bring everybody up to speed and myself included on all the changes.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but I'm gonna guess that, you know, we said something as the mayors of the Tri-Valley, or Scott said something about don't skunk us entirely out here in the Tri-Valley. But indeed, we received something we don't qualify for. And so we didn't turn it back, but I don't remember exactly. Carolyn, if you remember exactly how that came about, let us know.
Yeah, as you mentioned, some of it is just wanting to have there was an interest in equity across the whole county. And I think, you know, there was a concern that that there were no free and universal programs potentially in the Tri-Valley. And we did, as Christy noted, we tested at 4 different models when we did the first pilot. Very quickly learned that was way too many models and we needed to simplify. And because we were already in the Livermore School District in this free and universal program, you know, the idea was we're already offering that to them. Honestly, ridership was the lowest out there of any of the schools that were in the program. And so, you know, I think there was a decision that it's the lowest income district in the Tri-County area. We have the lowest ridership, so it's not impacting transit capacity. And we want to encourage students to have access to transit. So don't take away what was already programmed in the school. But again, next year when we'll be doing that longer term look at the program, I think after we've completed rollout, there's going to be a number of things that as we rolled it out, there were maybe, you know, small exceptions given that we're going to need to essentially kind of clean up into a long-term program.
Okay, well, thank you. I would be interested to know any longitudinal analysis of over a longer and longer period of time. Do students increase adoption? The ones that try it, do they continue? And I'm looking at it almost at the individual unique student, you know, are there ones that then become real adopters? Or are there some that try it for a week and don't do it anymore? That's all really, really interesting data. So I also note that our buses are largely a fixed asset, driving around town, all over town, everywhere in town, sometimes with only a few bodies on them. And it doesn't hurt to pick up people along the way. Doesn't cost us any more or less. The only issue we have is there are certain routes, Carolyn, where I don't know, I'm gonna put it up against any route in the county. There are school bus routes in the morning that are jam-packed full, and every one of them are paying because they can afford it. And their parents make them take the bus. And I bet it has the highest ridership in the state. I don't know where else, but it's pretty high. And so you can't tell them, you all don't have to pay anymore, because we would lose a lot of money on that. I don't know, we could, it's just a couple of routes, but when the new high school opens up, that's gonna dry up, I think, on some level. Although a lot of students are gonna continue to go to Dublin High and will continue to take the bus. And that's just an anomaly. It's an anomaly, but it is a very high ridership, right? But other than that, fixed assets driving all around town, use them. In my opinion.
Director Josie.
Thank you. Most of my questions were asked, particularly around how do we know the means base since free and reduced lunch went away? And it sounds like the schools maybe are just giving us a list, and that's fine. The Measure BB money that was the original pilot, that still has some money out there, that's great. But if we're not getting the external grants we were hoping to get, my real question is, LAVTA is made whole for every one of these kids that get on the bus.
We bill every trip to CTC.
And then figuring out, ACTC figuring out the money is sort of their problem, not our problem. So, you know, get those little more kiddos on the bus. Because every kid that gets on the bus is increased ridership for us. So I think that's great, and I agree with your analogy, and I can explain it to you later, Dave, if you'd like, with the gift horses in the mouth. So I think that's great. I would want to make sure that that we are getting the word to both Pleasanton and Dublin that you know, if they have kiddos that they're worried about, that, you know, even though they don't know how to do the free and reduced lunch calculation either, since that program went away, that if they have kids that they know qualify, that we'll get them a bus pass.
Absolutely. So how social services work is that the folks that are using and are on general assistance are automatically intertwined with being able to get other amenities, or, you know, other like passes and going along the list of things that they may have to qualify. So I'm almost positive that they're probably not missing out. I do want to add the fact, and I know we're not in discussion yet, but Livermore is the highest need. When you look at the social services numbers and direct numbers with general assistance, Livermore's the highest. So I don't have an issue with Livermore students taking this at all whatsoever. And I don't want parents that can't afford it to take advantage of it, because then it's really leaving a person that may possibly need it, and that might be taken away. So I don't have any questions, Carolyn, because I sit on ACTC as well as a couple of the board members here, but I just wanted to clarify that that's generally how social services work, that not only are they offered with this resource, but other resources as well.
So yeah, I was gonna kind of piggyback on that. So a couple of things I can speak to Pleasanton only because that's the district where I teach at. But I would say that the program's been awesome. The counselors generally have access to enough information that they're able to target the students who need the passes, and they've done a really great job of getting them out. So again, I only know Pleasanton. I'm not sure for Dublin or even Livermore, actually. I'm not sure exactly for adoption there, but in Pleasanton, we've done a really good job of taking the other information we have for students and making sure that we're able to get them the passes. So, you know, Carolyn, I want to just say, I think it's a great program. I really appreciate this. It's been huge for my students. I teach at Village High, the continuation out there. And we have a lot of students who take advantage of this and really, really need it to get to school. Pleasanton's doing an awesome job on it. I assume the other districts are as well. As far as the imbalance between the districts, I think, we've explained why. I'm happy that Livermore is getting this benefit, clearly. I do hope it continues. There are a number of reasons why I think it should continue. And I think one of the concerns that the other board members have that's a little harder to state is just, I think all of us would really love to see this program for every student. But Carolyn or Christy, if one of you wants to answer this question, which I think I know the answer to, we extend it to every student in the county. Can we afford that?
Well, we don't have buses for that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're learning that if you have a free pass, your usage for transit goes up about 35%. This is just from the Clipper Bay Pass pilot. So if that's any indicator, you would have to make a decision as a board as to what type of local service you want to run.
So I think it would be.
Not to speak for Carolyn, but.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a similar question for AC Transit and Union City Transit. If there are already some routes that have some crowding issues that serve schools as well as other uses. And so, each year we carefully go through every school that we're expanding to. And I think it's a question we'll be grappling with the transit agencies. There have been probably every year for the last 5 or 6 years, bills in front of the legislature around providing free transit to all youth, and they have not moved forward because of the concerns around the overall financial feasibility of sustaining that, as well as the impact on transit service. And those have been statewide bills that have not made it through because of those concerns. So I think those are the similar concerns we'd have with expanding it to all students in the county.
Yeah, I think kind of to that point, personally, I don't want to speak for anyone else. I would love to see transit become free for everyone. But that is not a switch we can flip and have the infrastructure for it to work. So I appreciate programs like this. I appreciate it in Livermore, I appreciate it in Pleasanton and Dublin. It's amazing for the students who need it. It's really doing a lot to promote transit as an option for getting to and from schools. I think this is an amazing program. Thank you so much for running it. I hope it can continue past the end of the VB funds running out, because it is really important for the students who need it.
Brittany, did you have any questions?
Evan just said the things I was going to say, so ditto, Evan.
All right, I will go ahead and
Ask a couple follow-up.
sure.
The wheels and city buses took over when the school districts eliminated buses. The school districts should still have. What that did was create traffic and significant safety impacts that are always a concern at schools. It would be interesting to work with schools and perhaps get some funding, since they aren't any longer funding the school buses. My kids were some of the last kids that rode school buses in Pleasanton. For my oldest son, he rode the school bus just in elementary school in our neighborhood. And so I was very aware when they ended. And the city buses picking up, kind of transitioning and picking up that responsibility was really difficult for a while, because kids, it was not an easy transition. But when you say there isn't a switch that I do think it would be worth exploring, because I agree. I think that there should be more access to the bus riding. And you're right, I don't want to take it away from anyone. I want to open it up more. And so I just would like to see if that was an option. Last question is, Evan, I know buses do not go into the Village High property, so they must be dropped off on Main or on First Street or something?
Yeah, it's about a block and a half away.
Okay,
So short, very short walk.
right, yeah, okay, all right, that's it, thanks.
I will go ahead and move on to public comment, and we have Kelly Abreu.
What's the effect of how these price changes work on buses? Staff always comes in and says, well, we don't know, we're just trying it. It's kind of the excuse to run any pilot program on earth can be run under well, we haven't done it yet, we'll see after a few years after we do it. But there have been studies for many years. The academic studies are out there, and one of them is the Victoria Transportation Policy Institute in Victoria, British Columbia, and they did a whole report, and they cited other reports. And what do you get out of this? Well, you find out that the price sensitivity for bus service is much lower than for long distance train service. So that means that if you were to cut prices on BART, you would have a bigger impact and you get more ridership. And BART has one of the highest price per mile price structures in America. And then for buses, Los Positas, everybody pays, but only a few use those bus passes. So in effect, it's a subsidy where the people who don't want to ride buses, they subsidize the ones who do. Same thing happened, by the way, at the University of California, Berkeley. That's within Alameda County too, but that's in Keith Carson's district. And so what is the bus demand? In the short run, it's something around 0.3 elasticity of demand, but in the long run, something around double that. Those are negative price elasticities. Economists will know what I'm talking about. But anyway, short run, you don't get much of an impact. Long run, huge impact.
Thank you. Right, bringing it back to any further discussion, because it's not an item for approval or anything. And then, Christy, we're going to now for executive report.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thanks, Carolyn.
Take care.
All right, I have a meeting executive director's report today. First, I want to introduce our newest staff member, David Mark. Right here in the back, he is our new director of customer experience. He joins us from Bishop Ranch, where he managed the transportation program out there. He actually hails from Oahu, where he has a background in hospitality and transportation. So he's replacing Tony McCauley and will be responsible for all of our customer-facing materials and programs, including the Alameda County Student Pass program. So we're so excited he's here.
Come up to the podium and say a few words.
Why would you leave a lot?
And how did you like Splatter?
I know, yeah.
I had a great time at Splatter. It's very nice to meet you all. I'm really privileged and happy to be here. I am from Oahu. I'm about a year into California, and the Tri-Valley is beautiful. Happy to serve in it. I did spend about a year at Bishop Ranch, so I'm familiar with both wheel service and county connection service, a little background there. And my entire background is the disciplines of marketing and public relations. That's my education. And being from Hawaii, everything is tied to hospitality, including hotels, transportation, and retail. And I've held various commercial and government positions in both. Vice President of Marketing for some hospitality firms. And I worked on a bus rail integration for the city and county of Honolulu. So it's a pleasure to be here. If anyone has any questions, please reach out to me anytime.
Just want to say thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
We threw him in the deep end. She went to Splatter. Great. Okay, so your ridership highlights, we are seeing an increase year over year with ridership, which is wonderful. You may recall we fully restored your 10R to 15 minutes all day back in April, and we are definitely realizing those ridership gains. Back to school time is upon us. It has been this way for a few weeks now. And I am making a very strong attempt to build a really solid relationship with the schools and the school district. So we held an inaugural meeting of LAVTA staff, and we invited all the Tri-Valley superintendents and all the principals and vice principals from all of the schools that we serve to have an informational meeting, to give them an update about what is coming this year, to talk about the Alameda County Student Transit Pass, to talk about Rider Code of Conduct, to talk about who do you call if there's an issue, and to start to plant a seed about how, if we work together with bell times, we might be able to do more for schools. I know we will be talking about how crowded school buses are. We are seeing very crowded buses this year. I don't know where these kids are coming from, but when all the schools start at the same time, it pinches our resources in such a significant way. So the only way to affect that change is to start to communicate with the schools. And so we will be holding this meeting every year and maybe even more often as we hear for more demand for school service. And we had our Tri-Transit to School promotion that lasted August 7th through September 4th. I do not have the Tri-Transit results in front of me, but we will be issuing a press release highlighting all the ridership. But as being out at Dublin High for many days in a row, boy, oh boy, do we need that. It was
Dublin's always being called out.
I know, well,
I'm the best writer.
I would invite you all to come around 3:40.
Oh, I just had a daughter graduate not too long ago.
Yeah. It's quite a thing to see all of the 11 buses line up and see the kids run out and figure out what bus they need to go on. And so that's a great segue into monitoring our routes. Because, for the first month, it is just quite nightmarish for us with unknown traffic patterns and unknown ridership. Complicated somewhat by the fact we offer free transit for all students the first month. So we do see a lot of ridership. And so we try not to be too reactive, knowing that traffic will settle down. But at some point when you see serious passenger loads being really high, you take action. And so I'm proud to say our staff, we monitored every day. We had a debrief meeting on what are the school loads, what is the on-time performance, and where were their concerns. And we implemented a change in August, I think a week and a half or so after school started, where we made a modification to Route 604 going to Foothill High to alleviate some of the crowding on that bus. That has seemed to work. We have also made an adjustment to Route 502. So the Dublin traffic challenge is, a strong one. This particular bus gets caught in Wells Middle School traffic as well as it does Dublin High traffic, and was arriving pretty consistently 20 minutes after the bell time, which is not okay. As a practice, we do call the schools and we send an alert. We don't want children marked tardy for something that's our fault, but traffic wasn't normalizing and that bus was just arriving too late. So we made a shift, I think it was right a week ago, last Tuesday, where we moved that route to start 18 minutes earlier. Well, now the bus is getting to school just a little early. So there's a sweet spot, it's kind of watching and adjusting, so we may be making additional changes there, but we are closely watching the on-time performance. And we see heavy loads on our 501. And so we are looking at a cost neutral way of maybe adding a later afternoon trip. So we are, as I mentioned, very pinched with our resources. We have allocated 100% of your pre-pandemic buses. They are all in service. And so we have to get creative. Or we have to, or something has to give with the schedule. So we are monitoring that. And today, you may have read or heard that BART is celebrating their 51st anniversary and making a major change to their schedules. They're going to 7-day-a-week, 20-minute service and all fleet of future trains. And so with this new schedule change, the connection between Wheels and BART will be out of sync for some time. This is why we're doing our Wheels in Motion outreach campaign, to check in with our community, to better understand how people want to connect to BART, and also gives us an opportunity to check in on how frequent should our routes be and do they go in the right places. And so we launched the Wheels in Motion program. Basically Saturday was our first event at Splatter. We will be at the Pleasanton Farmers Market on Saturday. Please come by. I'll be there, and so will a few staff. And we have a survey that we are pushing out and trying to get people to weigh in. But until we make our changes, we may hear an uptick in complaints about our connectivity to BART. So we're looking at, if there's low hanging fruit and there's a way to adjust a route, so it's like 1 minute difference, I think we would look into that. But by and large, I would like to wait until after our Wheels in Motion outreach is done before we make any recommended changes. Last week on the 6th, I got the pleasure of accompanying a wonderful group of young adults from the Pleasanton Adult and Career Education Center on a ride-along. We met at the Pleasanton Unified School District. There were about 20 interns and 5 teachers that rode wheels with us for half of a day. So we went and rode the Route 10R, we went to the Transit Center, then we came to here, we had lunch, we rode the 14, and then walked back and went to BART via 14, and then caught Route 10 back to their headquarters. And it was just an opportunity to get back out in the community and meet these wonderful young adults and perhaps make some connections about future interns in the future. And there's some pictures in your packet. And September is Transit Month, so we will be doing some social media postings. There also is a GM ride-along. So this is something the general managers of the 27 operators throughout the Bay Area try to do once a month. They get together, they take pictures, and they ride the various systems. They've not been out here on wheels yet, so that's going to be my next ask. But this ride-along will be on the peninsula. I'll be out there taking pictures, and that's on the 29th. Quickly moving into your finance and admin, very pleased to report that we increased the price of our Atlantis lease. As you may or may not be aware that Google currently leases a number of spaces at Atlantis to park a commuter bus and park for like an informal park and ride. Well, we have not changed the lease price in years, and prices have gone up. So we advertised a rate of $7,200 a month, which is approximately $3,200 more than we were receiving. Google provided a bid, signed our new lease, and this will result in $36,000 in new revenue.
You should have doubled that. But Google could afford it. You should have gone for the big.
There are other options. I've seen buses parked in other places too.
And we did advertise to Black Tie. We did put it out there to try to see what other interests. We weren't sure. We didn't have a lot to compare the price of parking to, but it's only a 1-year lease, and so we can revisit. Jennifer Yeamans here is joining us remotely. We wanted to give you a quick update on the transit fiscal cliff and some quick legislative updates. And so I'll just read through her report here. The CALSTA, the California State Transportation Agency, has drafted guidelines to distribute the $4 billion in funding authorized through SB 125, through the TIRCIP program. And this includes approximately $400 million that will come through MTC for Bay Area projects. MTC intends to prioritize needs according to projects in their Major Projects Advancement Policy, or their MAP, which they will be updating this fall prior to the December 31st deadline. And MTC is continuing to explore the feasibility for a future regional transportation measure. They're meeting with stakeholders, and they're really determining what kind of language is necessary to have a measure in 2024 or 2026 to provide some long-term and much-needed funding for transit operators that are facing a financial cliff. I'll note we are in a good financial position. We are not one of the 4 or 3 operators that is facing that dire and immediate cliff. That is Muni, that is BART, and that is AC Transit, and perhaps Golden Gate. I think there are 4. SB 532, which is the Wiener, the $1.50 bridge toll increase to address the fiscal cliff, has been paused. So that is off the table at the moment. And on the federal side, well, we had Congressman Swalwell here today for a visit. That was a surprise visit that we heard about on Friday. So got to meet him and thank him for forwarding our community project funding request, which is a $2.5 million request to expand our hydrogen fueling station in Atlantis. And so we've been speaking with both Representative DeSaulnier and Swalwell staff on the earmark process, and there's still a lot that is unknown at the federal level, but we are in a wait and see mode, but we are hopeful that it will go through. We passed our annual CHP inspection. I just wanted to make note of that. We still have our rodeo on the 28th of October. You have your invitations in front of you, and I believe most of you have signed up for training on the 14th of October. So I'll be circling up with all of you to get your time slot nailed down. And I think Supervisor Hobart and Mayor Hernandez are on the 18th for your special training. We have a staff workshop. So our coaching team that's been working with your executive team has done an assessment of staff via an anonymous survey, an interview, and we are doing an all-day staff team building workshop. We'll be at the Dublin Library on September 21st. And last, we have several procurements that are taking place over the next month. This is somewhat related to what we'll talk to you about in closed session today. The first RFP was released on September 1st to assess our wireless network configuration and some upgrade services. We also will be releasing a request for information for your shared autonomous vehicle project. So we will, as I am gearing up to make a recommendation to you about what to, the path forward for that project, we want to better understand what technology is available in the marketplace. And so we are releasing an RFI. And if you haven't taken a spin on the Presto shuttle up in San Ramon, I encourage you to do so. That is a Navia shuttle that is operated by Beep. In your packet, you have 2 months of statistics. I won't go through them. I'm happy to answer any questions. Just please note that your July statistics, we did not update your Go Tri-Valley numbers, so I have provided you with a printed copy that should have been at your seats. If not, we can get that to you. But I will note, Go Tri-Valley continues to go up. July was at about 3,800 and June was about 3,500. So we will be taking a very close look at that program here at the end of the year.
Continues to rise, does it? We were hoping we were on a flat here.
So with that, I can take questions.
Yes, so do you have any rough numbers or idea? You mentioned just 2 routes of school trippers that were really impacted. But what percentage, how many, how frequent, how severe? At what point do you say you're not sardines, your children?
Sure. I don't have the specific numbers about the percentage of buses that are at or above capacity. I will get that for you this week. But in your Title VI program indicates that our tolerance for passenger loads is 1.5 times the number of seats on a bus, which typically means on a school tripper, you've got 40 seats, which means we tolerate an average of 60 students. And that is your Title VI policy.
20 standing in the aisle.
Correct. And when we see regular loads that exceed that amount, that is when we start to take a look at what we need to do.
After the 60?
Correct. After, and it's after it's
Regularly.
consistent.
Regular.
Yes.
Consistently
After the 60, because, we do see ridership fluctuations, time of year, day of week, even morning to afternoon. And so, again, we don't want to react too quickly. We do want to see after the Tri-Transit settles down. Surprisingly, ridership's higher, I think, the week after Tri-Transit, which so we're going to dig into some data there and understand, what's going on, because that's an anomaly, that's unusual. We typically see the opposite, like a 5 or 10% reduction. And so I can get you how often, which buses, happy to do that.
Okay, so I just have to, when you're talking 1.5, you're talking 40 children get to sit and 20
the last pickup.
are standing. I can't physically see how 20 can stand in the aisle. How many seats are there? And you've got 20.
Well, on average, a 40-foot bus, which is what we deploy on our school trippers, has about 40 seats or 39. And
But that's not rows.
Not necessarily. It could be perimeter seating. In some buses, we actually have more room for standees because we have the seats on the perimeter.
And do they all have something to
They
hold
do.
on to?
They have grab bars, we have strap hangers, absolutely.
So every rider would at least have something to hold on to. Every rider.
I believe that they can reach up and grab the overhead railing. Yes, they should absolutely have something to hold on to.
Well, that's an interesting question. For short people, can they reach and do that?
I can see exactly where our handles are. We have handles in the back of each seat, much like on a BART train, you've got a handle there. Posts throughout the bus, strap hangers. Yeah.
I'd like to see those
Okay.
numbers.
Okay, sure.
Director Josie and then Director Kay.
Thank you. I know we've talked about, traffic patterns settling down a little bit after Labor Day. Have we seen, more on-time arrivals at the schools, in the last week? So Tuesday through today?
I'm gonna ask either Mike or Regina to step up to the podium to speak to that question if you're able to.
Sure, and I'll probably defer to Regina because she has more of a finger on the pulse of this past week especially. But yeah, so as Chrissy mentioned, we monitor it on a daily basis. We have dispatchers who are actively monitoring the service every day. And we're monitoring complaints, and if we see enough complaints or we hear enough issues percolate up from the operators and supervisors, we will look into chronic schedule errors issues. But with regards to this last week of service, how would you say we're doing? I think we're doing pretty well in terms of buses getting on time. Much better than the first 4 weeks of school, I would say.
Yes, exactly. The 502 has gotten a lot better. The 504 is running a little bit late, but not as bad. But it has gotten a lot better.
501 running mostly on time.
Yes.
And we do give 20 minutes in between when the bus is scheduled to arrive to when the bell rings. And so even a bus may be 9 minutes late arriving to school, but that still gives 10 or 11 minutes of time.
And when we know a bus is gonna be late to school, walk me through the procedure for notifying a school when a bus is gonna be late, and when does that notification happen?
Yeah, so 2 things, and correct me if I'm wrong, Regina, but if a dispatcher notices a bus is behind schedule, they will do anything in their power to get it back on schedule. Just we call line management. That doesn't succeed every time. If they know it's gonna miss the bell time, they will call. They have the contact information, they'll inform staff. They know that, if the student's tardy, they're on the bus and in traffic, right? We also send out SMS alerts. So if parents subscribe to this number, we will send out SMS alerts saying this route is running this many minutes behind schedule, so the parents will know. So there's multiple ways of pushing that type of information out.
Okay, and are we notifying the school district or the school site that the bus is gonna be late?
The school site.
The school site, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Director Kay.
I was just gonna say that in my hometown, my school was the Dublin High of my area. So I'm not actually that worried as being having all the kids on the bus. I mean, they're generally smaller bodied people, so there may be 2 seats, but 4 kids. It is tight, but I don't actually have any safety concerns. That they're just smaller people. In general.
Vertically challenged.
Big backpacks. No, I just wanted to add really quickly that, we've been doing this for many years. This is not anything new. And so, making sure that we're just changing what we need to change. Obviously, like you said, we're not being reactive. We know that every single beginning of the school year, even students with parents that are dropping them off, it's chaos for the first month. So all we can do is, my question was, were the superintendents in attendance? One. See, that's the thing. It's like, you hold these meetings and these superintendents don't show up, and you're trying to be, have that relationship with them. Yeah. And just follow up from last year, wanted to see how, I know that we had some issues with some of the kids and not being very kind to our bus drivers and having attitudes, and I just want to make sure that they get that letter, because I think it's fair that they don't treat our bus drivers that way.
Absolutely. I think Dublin High put out some information in the welcome packet. We haven't heard anything yet. It's still early. We did hear about kids fighting off the bus. and getting video. We have 9 cameras, so our videos are requested. So we did set up, thank you, Mike, an easier way to send information rather than burning a DVD or a thumb drive and going to the school. Because, we want to nip this in the bud. Any bad behavior, we want to nip in the bud. We have all of our signage saying we're, in essence, we're watching you, we're listening to you, not those words. And I think it's also staff going out once in a while and supporting the operators and having our school partners go out there with us. So, we'll be doing that throughout the year.
I think the mayor should ride the bus.
I rode the bus when I was young. And we were disciplined because we knew we would lose our ability to drive a bus.
Yeah.
So we were very good children back in the day.
I know you want to have these meetings with all the school districts frequently, February would be the time.
I think that's great.
Yes, that's when calendaring starts to happen.
Yeah, probably not August.
Yeah, well, but also we're talking for the next school year.
Yeah, for the Valentine's.
You don't wanna wait till May.
Yeah.
To hold it for the next school year.
Talking about school bells, that was that law that was passed.
It was.
So-
There still could be
Oh,
some
no, for sure.
wiggle room there.
Because
Yeah.
some of these kids, like they're going in way later, they're
Yeah.
getting out way later, and then you're
Yeah.
going to sleep later.
And they all
So
started
the
the
whole
same
reasoning
time.
on
Yeah.
why they moved it makes really no sense to the mother.
Yeah.
In my head. So, okay, we will go ahead and now, not seeing any video online, raising their hand, Brittany. We will go ahead and adjourn to our closed session.
You have to leave, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll stay for as much of it as I can.
Executive team, stay.
Do I have a separate meeting I need to be in?